So this is the Chapter 2 review for the midterm study guide. So what we're going to do here, it says to describe the pattern. So if I look at my pattern, it looks like each time they are adding 5 to complete the pattern. So you could have either said that it's increasing by 5 or add 5. So my next number in the pattern is going to be the number 14. Then for number 4, this one, it looks like I'm dividing by -2, or I could have also said multiply by -1/2. So then my next number in the sequence or in the pattern is going to be 6.25. Now, for numbers 5, 6, 7, and 8, it's going to take me a while because for each one, I need to write down 4 sentences. So here we go. I'm sorry? All right, so let's go through these. So for number 5, now remember that the if-then form is also called the conditional. So the if-then form for number 5, which is all right angles are congruent, you could have stated that if the angles are right angles, then they are congruent. Then the converse of this is where you're going to switch the order. So here what I could state is if the angles are congruent, then they are right angles. Next was the inverse. This is where I'm going to negate both the hypothesis and the conclusion. So I could state that if the angles are not right angles, then they are not congruent. Then the contrapositive, this is where we're going to flip and negate. So if the angles are not congruent, then they are not right angles. And that was all for number 5. Now for number 6, frogs are amphibians. So again, I'm going to do the 4 statements. So for number 6, I can state, now you could have said if the animal, I'm going to use if the creature. So if, this is the if-then statement. So if the creature is a frog, then it is an amphibian. Next is the converse. We're going to change the order. So if the creature is an amphibian, then it is a frog. The inverse, we're going to negate the original. So if the creature is not a frog, then it is not an amphibian. And lastly, the contrapositive, I flip and negate. So if the creature is not an amphibian, then it is not a frog. And that was number 6. Now we're going to do number 7. Same thing, 4 statements. So for number 7, the conditional is if x equals -2, then 5x plus 4 equals -6. Converse, flip it. If 5x plus 4 equals -6, then x equals -2. For the inverse, we're going to negate it. So I'm just going to use the not equal to sign. So if x is not equal to -2, then 5x plus 4 is not equal to -6. And then lastly, the contrapositive, I'm going to flip it. So if 5x plus 4 is not equal to -6, then x is not equal to -2. And then the last one of writing the 4 sentences says a regular polygon is equilateral. So if a polygon is regular, need to make this sound grammatically correct, is regular, then it is equilateral. Now I'm going to flip it. So for the converse, if a polygon is equilateral, then it is regular. Now I'm going to add in knots. If a polygon is not regular, then it is not equilateral. And now contrapositive, flip and negate. If a polygon is not equilateral, then it is not regular. All right, lots of writing there for those 4 questions. Now for number 9, let me go up to where that question is. This one wants us to, notice up here it said only for exercises 5 through 8 you had to do this. So now number 9, the instructions change. So it says if you decide to go to the football game, then you will miss band practice. Tonight you're going to the football game. Using the law of detachment, what statement can you make? And you can make the statement, since you are going to the football game, you will miss band practice. So right here, this is going to be our conclusion, and this is our statement that we're going to make. You will miss band practice. Number 10, using the law syllogism, what statement can you make? So remember, the syllogism is sort of like transitive, and the overlap gets canceled out. So if Margot goes to college, then she will major in chemistry. If Margot majors in chemistry, then she will need to buy a lab manual. Notice, then she will major in chemistry is the conclusion of the first one, and it's going to cancel out the hypothesis of the second one. So our final answer here is going to be if Margot goes to college, then she will need to buy a lab manual. So let me just go ahead and rewrite that. So if Margot goes to college, then she will need to buy a lab manual. For number 11, we just needed to make a statement or give an example from the diagram that demonstrates a line contains at least 2 points. So for number 11, there's lots of different answers here. One sample answer could have been line MP because it contains points M and P. Now you can either name it with the arrow on top, or if you're naming a line, for example, I could also say line RS, I could also write the word line in front instead of putting the picture of the line on top. So line MP contains points M and P, line RS contains points R and S. I could have also, another answer could have been QT or QN. So a lot of different answers for this question. Then for the next one, a plane contains at least 3 non-collinear points. So here I could have named plane X with 3 non-collinear points. I could have named it plane MQP. Again, and this is just one sample answer. If I wanted to give another name for plane Y with 3 letters, I could have also said plane Y could be QNS. Again, different examples. There's more than just these 2 answers for this. And then the last one here from the diagram, if 2 planes intersect, then their intersection is a line. So I could state that plane X and plane Y intersect at line NQ. You could have also named it NT or TQ, but anything that names this line right here, that would be their intersection. Now for 14, 15, and 16, it didn't say to write a 2-column proof. It just said to solve the equation and write in a reason for each one. Now I'm not going to give you algebra proof. The 2 proofs on the midterm will be geometry proofs. But I'm going to go ahead and write 14, 15, and 16 as algebra proofs and showing the justification in the second column. So for number 14, the question is 9x plus 31 equals negative 23. So first thing I'm going to do, if I did write it as a 2-column proofs, which it didn't say to, but just to practice. So this would have been given. Then what I would have done next is subtract 31 from both sides. And then I would have been left with 9x equals negative 54. And this reason would have been subtraction. And this was property of equality. Again, if you only put subtraction, that is fine. Then the next step would be to divide both sides by 9. And I get x equals negative 6. And this would have been the division property of equality. Then number 15. Again, I'll do it as 2 columns. Given. Now, instead of distributing, I'm going to distribute on the next one, on number 16, just to show you that if you want, you can divide both sides by negative 7. And then you're just left with this. And this would have been the division property of equality. Now, you could have also said distributive property and then used all your inverse operations. That is acceptable as well. So then this next step, I would be subtracting 2. Negative x equals negative 8. And then that would have been subtraction. And then the last step is division again. I'm dividing both sides by negative 1. And I get x equals positive 8. So division. And this is just if you didn't use distributive. That's how you could have done number 15. Then number 16, I'm actually going to distribute. This one is 26 plus 2 times 3x plus 11 equals negative 18x. I'm going to distribute. And I get 6x plus 22 equals negative 18x. This was given. This was distributive. Next, I'm going to simplify. I'm going to combine like terms. So I'm going to combine 26 and 22. And I end up with 48 plus 6x equals negative 18x. That reason is simplify. You could have also said combine like terms. My next step is to get my x's together. So I'm going to subtract 6x. So subtraction now. And then lastly, I'm going to divide both sides by negative 24. And I end up with negative 2 equals x. And that would have been division, property of equality. Now, if you want to flip it around, you could also say symmetric property, but you don't need to. And that was the 3 algebra proofs. Now, you will get questions like 17, 18, and 19, even though we've been using these 3 properties as reasons in proof, be able to identify them. So for 17, 18, and 19, number 17, this is the symmetric property. For number 18, this is reflexive, so it's A. And number 19 is transitive, so it's C. For number 20, it wants us to use the vertical angles congruence theorem to find the measure of each angle. So I know that vertical angles are congruent. So I'm going to set the vertical angle expressions equal to each other. So for number 20, first I'll do y. And I'm going to set 7y equal to 5y plus 36. I'm going to go ahead and subtract 5y. 2y equals 36. Divide by 2, y equals 18. Now, it didn't ask for y. It asked you to find the measure of the angle. So 7y, 7 times 18 gives me 126. And then if I also plug it into the 5y plus 36, I end up getting 5 times 18 plus 36. 5 times 18, remember you're not using a calculator. So I would get 5 times 18 is 90 plus 36, again, is 126. So 2 of my angles are going to be 126. And then to find the other 2, the 2 x's there, I'm going to set 3x minus 21 equal to 2x plus 4. Subtract the 2x. X minus 21 equals 4. Add 21. X equals 25. And now I plug it in. 3x minus 21 or into the 2x plus 4. So 3 times 25 minus 21, 75 minus 21, and I get 54. And same thing here. If I multiply it, and then add 4, I get 54 as well. So those are the vertical angle pairs. And then lastly, the proof. So here, statements, reasons. So number 1, AX is congruent to DX, and XB is congruent to XC. Given. Next, what I'm going to do is, because I need to establish what AC and BD equal, I'm going to go ahead and use my segment addition postulate, and I'm going to show that AC is made up of adding AX plus XC equals AC. And then I'm also going to show that XC plus XD, or DX, equals BD. Now what I can do is a substitution here. Hold on, I did something wrong here. BD is equal to XB and DX. I need to change this C. So it's going to be XB plus DX. Okay, so now this was segment addition postulate. So then now what I'm going to do is, if you notice, AX right here is equal to DX. So I'm going to take out this AX and I'm going to replace it with a DX. So my next statement is going to be DX plus XC equals AC. Then for this one, notice XB equals XC. So I'm going to take out this XB and replace it with XC. So DX plus, XC plus DX equals BD. Now, if you notice, these two things are exactly the same thing, because you got the DX and the XC. So now what I can do, this was a substitution, not a transitive. And now I could do transitive and say that AC equals, or is congruent to BD. And then this would have been, actually, let me keep it in equal sign, and then I'll show definition of congruent segments. So here we could say that that's equal, that's transitive. Now, if you would have just put the congruency symbol there, that would have been fine. But if you kept it as an equal sign and then changed it as congruent, then this would have been definition of congruent segments. I would have been okay with you just putting the congruence symbol on statement 4 and leaving off 5 if you wish. So that was the chapter 2. Now we're going to do the chapter 3. So chapter 3. For this part, it wants you to identify the angle pairs. Now remember, at the beginning in chapter 3, we learned about the angle pairs. In the first section, they weren't necessarily parallel lines. So we didn't know that they were congruent or supplements. So here it was just identifying them. And then when we go to answer 7 through 12, now we've got parallel marks, and then we can know that they're either congruent or supplements. So 1 and 8 in the figure, these are alternate interior. Alternate exterior. They're outside of the parallel lines, so here and here, but they're not congruent because the lines aren't parallel. 2 and 6 are corresponding angles. They're in the same corresponding part. They're both in this upper corner here. So 2 and 6 are corresponding. And then 3 and 5, these are consecutive interior or same side interior. Or same side. And then 4 and 5, these are alternate interior. 3 and 7, corresponding. And then 3 and 6, alternate interior. Pretty good there? All right, now we're going to find the angle measures. So let's try that. So in this picture, we can see that they're parallel. So x and 140 are in the same corresponding part, so they're congruent. So the value of x here is just 140 degrees. For number 8, these angles are alternate interior. So I'm going to set 18x minus 22 equal to 50. Add 22. 18x equals 72. Divide both sides by 18, and x equals 4. And number 9, these are alternate exterior, which are congruent. So 4x plus 11 equals 107. Subtract 11. 4x equals 696. Divide by 4, and x equals 24. Now, to find the value of x that makes m and n parallel, these are going to be same side interior or consecutive interior. So these are supplements. So all I have to do is 180 minus 137, and x equals 43 degrees. For number 11, these are corresponding. So I'm going to set them equal to each other. So 128 minus x equals x. Add x. 128 equals 2x. Divide by 2, and x equals 64. Now, these are not congruent. There's no special name for them. But if you realize that this angle here and this angle are alternate interior, this one would be x plus 17. So then that would make these two guys sitting on a straight line. So they're supplements. So I'm going to do x plus 17 plus 73 and set it equal to 180. When I add these, I get 90. When I subtract 90, x equals 90. Now for 13, 14, and 15, we're going to do the slope formula. We're using y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So again, know the slope formula. So let's plug in our order pairs. So I'm going to do 4 minus negative 1 over 3 minus 3, 5 over 0. Whenever there's a 0 in the denominator, the slope is undefined. If the 0 would have been in the numerator, it would have simplified to a 0. And then number 14. Here we're going to, again, use the same formula. So I'm doing negative 3 minus 7 over negative 1 minus 2, negative 10 over negative 3, negative divided by a negative turns this to be positive 10 over 3. And then 15, 12 minus 5, negative 6 minus 0, 7 over negative 6. You could leave it that way. If you'd rather pull the negative in front, that is acceptable as well. Now, be able to do questions where you're asked to write an equation in slope-intercept form, given a point and given the slope. Remember, we need to calculate the b and then plug everything back in. So let's try number 16 through 18 and come to the other side here. 16, I'm given the order pair negative 2, 4 with a slope of 3. Remember, this is x, this is y. I'm going to be plugging it into y equals mx plus b. So I'm taking out y, putting in 4, taking out the m, put in 3, take out the x, put in negative 2, and then plus the b. So then I get 4 equals negative 6 plus b. Add the 6. 10 equals b. And now I put the b back and the m back, both of them into this equation. So the final answer for 16 is going to be y equals 3x plus 10. For number 17, I'm using the point, 7, 12, and then the slope, which is 0.2, negative 0.2. So again, 12 equals negative 0.2 times 7 plus b. 12 equals negative 1.4 plus b. Add the 1.4. 13.4 equals b. Take that b and this slope and put it back in. So final answer, y equals negative 0.2x plus 13.4. Number 18. Again, a coordinate, 3, 5, which is xy, and then the slope, negative 8. So y equals, so 5 equals negative 8 times 3 plus b. 5 equals negative 24 plus b. Add the 24. 29 equals b. Take the b, take the negative 8, plug it back in. Y equals negative 8x plus 29. Yes. Now we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to turn the slope into opposite reciprocal because the lines are perpendicular. So for number 19, come back over here. 19, they gave us a point of 1, 3, and an equation, y equals 2x minus 1. The slope of this line is 2, but the perpendicular slope is going to be the negative half. This is x, this is y. So I'm going to use 3 equals negative 1/2 times 1 plus b. 3 equals negative 1/2 plus b. Add the 1/2. 3.5 equals b. Now take the b and the slope, the perpendicular slope, and write it in as an equation. So y equals negative 1/2 x plus 3.5. Now, be aware, since it's a multiple choice test, that you could also write this as negative 1/2 plus 3.5, or it could also be turned into a mixed number and be represented as 7/2. So because it's multiple choice, be aware that they could have written the b in these 3 different ways. And then the next one, number 20, they gave us an order pair, 0, 2, and they also gave us an equation, which was y equals negative x plus 3. Now, for those of you who are good and recognize this, this is actually going to be the y-intercept of the new equation. So I really don't have to find a b, I just have to find the opposite reciprocal slope. So my perpendicular slope here is going to be opposite reciprocal to negative 1. So my perpendicular slope will be positive 1. So my new equation is just going to be y equals x plus 2. Then for 21, order pair 2, negative 3, equation given, x minus y equals 4. I need the slope, so I need to rearrange this. So I'm going to minus the x. I have to divide everything by -1. So my slope is going to be +1, so the perpendicular slope is -1. So this will be the slope, and then I'm using this as my x and my y. So -3 equals -1 times 2 plus b. -3 equals -2 plus b. Add the 2. -1 equals b. So my equation for 21 is y equals -x minus 1. And then the last three, we were told that for 22, 23, 24, AB is perpendicular to BC. So that tells me that I've got a little right angle right here. So in order to find x, okay, so I have a little right angle here. So I'm just going to use my angle addition, and I'm going to add x plus 68 equals 90, subtract 68, and x equals 22. Same thing on the next one. Again, we were told that they were perpendicular. So this is a right angle here. So I'm going to add 3x plus 51, set it equal to 90, subtract the 51, 3x equals 39, divide by 3, and x equals 13. And then finally, the last one, again, perpendicular. So this is a right angle. So I'm going to add x plus 8x plus 9, set it equal to 90. Add these two. Subtract the 9. 9x equals 81. Divide by 9. And x equals 9. And that was it for the next 2 pages.